Hey, Rainy Joe here, and welcome back to ROCKTOBER, where throughout the month of October, we are going to be listening to, for the first time ever, a series of different rock albums. And of course, today, continuing with a bit of a prog rock influence, we open up the series with, of course, Dark Side of the Moon and King Crimson's Red. I thought we would continue into another prog rock album, and hopefully the last in the series, simply because I don't want too much of the series taken up by prog rock. Granted, that could be a series in itself. But I thought today we would continue with a highly suggested album, that being, of course, Yes's 1972 record, Close to the Edge. I don't know too much about this one other than the fact that I know Bill Bruford is the drummer and percussion throughout this album. He is an incredible drummer, and I experienced him, I think, for the first time in full on King Crimson's Red just recently for the series, and I thought he was fantastic. I know he belonged to Yes before that departure, and this was the last album that he was featured on before going over to King Crimson. I'd also like to note the fact that this record is only 37 minutes long. It's quite short, and the mammoth of the track, the title track, Close to the Edge, the opening track, makes up the bulk of the runtime. So I'm excited to see where this prog rock epic seems to go. And if you're wondering, if I've never heard this album, why do I own a copy of it? Well, that's because I saw it at an antique store for only, not sure if it's readable with that sticker there, but for only $7, according to that sticker, which I remember at the time, I thought, hey, $7 for a record, you can't find that too often nowadays, and it was in pretty good condition. So now that I'm going to experience it for the first time, I thought, now I can at least listen to it in full. It's been sitting on my shelf for years. Now it'll finally get its play. But kicking it off, let's go into the title track, Close to the Edge. Not sure what to expect here, but I am pretty stoked because I love me some prog. A very tranquil open. These nature effects and this shimmery synth. I'm expecting like a almost like fantasy, considering Yes's album covers have a very mythological look to them. Oh. Jesus Christ, what a... I gotta turn this down, it is ear piercing. There's Bruford battering away. Who is this on guitar? Is that a guitar? Ooh, unless that's the electrical... Maybe the electric sitar from Steve Howe? That like frantic plucking? Oh. Seems like the main three there on vocals. Oh. Kind of Queen-esque, these backup vocals. Very operatic. Oh. And a gentle soaring descent. Like we're in a free fall here. Oh, there we go. John Anderson on the lead vocals, which I know the track Roundabout most notably from them. And I always thought, even with that track, he's got a great voice. Doesn't feel super showboaty necessarily. Doesn't feel like it is, breaking any ground with vocals. I feel like his vocals are kind of relatable in a sense. He doesn't feel like he's necessarily trying to do anything too extreme, which I like. More simplistic in his delivery. I like how kind of thick that bass is. Chris Squire. Oh. Trying to stay on that bass, but I love its nice, like, just like thick sound to it. Very deep. Oh, here we go. Drop of the title there. A track about the passage of time, it would seem. Maybe this is part 1, the solid time of change. Unless this is part 3 of the track, I don't know. I like the nice mix of synths with this prog rock. Not as like subtle as some of the other synth work we've heard this month. It really adds like a medieval tone to it. Oh my goodness. Another change in tempo. I love the constant deviations in the tempo and speed. Love that bass strumming out too at times. Maybe that seasonal depression, followed by the glimmer of the sun. I think comparing seasons to our own depression. I love the sort of water droplets we're hearing, like this, like almost like we're in a cave, very ethereal, mystic kind of cave. I love those distant strings. Getting kind of like ambient as well. A lot of this track really kind of lets itself develop in this ambient space. Like that opening. Now we're at the midpoint doing the same thing. Oh, like these keys, very light. Oh. Oh. I love the very such airy vocals. This is like transcendent. This section is so breathtaking and breezy. This passage especially is hitting hard. Oh, here we go. We're rising up. It's getting higher with each one. Oh my god, getting church vibes. This organ. Oh my god, it's getting kind of dark and gloomy in tone. Oh. Oh my god, the second half of this track is really just like an ever-changing, slowly developing, beautiful ascendance. It's like funeral music. This has to be the I get up, I get down portion. Oh. Diving back into those synths. I believe that's Rick Wakeman. Oh. Bruford taking it away. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be Seasons of Man as we shift into this whole new tempo and avenue. Oh, I like this. Really just like jamming out in this portion. Mr. Rick Wakeman taking it away. These last two sections of the track. That pipe organ too, and that get up, get down part was fantastic. Oh. And then right back into it. Are we going to shift back? Ready? Oh. Oh my goodness. No, never mind. Can't even be predicted. Circling it all back around. Oh my god. So operatic, so theatrical. When they come down. This is a beautiful track. Perfection from start to finish. A very, like, mind-boggling, dizzying track at times that is so complex, those arrangements throughout this entire thing. So, calculated, these instrumentals. And right back to that beautiful nature-esque tone, maybe showing the cycle of life, perhaps, reverting back to things. The passage of time, which seems to be a theme throughout this entire track about time passing, seasons changing. Depression, perhaps being a theme being touched upon in terms of life coming at you in waves. Incredible opening track, super technical, extremely layered, beautiful pipe organ section towards that back end. That middle section too, really diving into an ambient territory, kind of bookending the track as well with those nature tones. But that middle section is more ambient in a ethereal kind of spacey sense. And then of course, you know, when it's not being ambient or very ethereal, it's just like a pummeling, incredibly dense set of instrumentation as well, especially Bill Bruford coming in quite strong with those drums. And I gotta say, Rick Wakeman, incredible piano playing and pipe organ and synths throughout that entire track. I also really liked, I believe it was the electric sitar, which I pointed out earlier on in the track. Again, added a very interesting plucking sound to the composition. Just very dense, an incredible opening track. And I could see why that is the title track. It really does feel like that centerpiece. But carrying on, we got 2 more tracks here. Let's go into And You and I. Just 10 minutes. I say just 10 minutes, but for anyone else that'd be insane. For that opening track, 10 feels fairly short now. I like this more gentle acoustic opening. Again, feels very contemplative, I would say, this one. We're looking inside. Oh. Oh, we're sticking with the acoustic so far. Reminding me of... Maybe it's just the acoustic parts, but reminding me of the acoustic leanings of Led Zeppelin's, you know, 3rd album, especially Led Zeppelin 3. Which I have always been a fan of their acoustic compositions. Quick side note, speaking of Zeppelin, if you are a fan of Led Zeppelin and you're interested in a tier list on this channel, where I tier list and rank them at the same time, let me know. Perhaps that's something I will do very soon if there is interest for a Led Zeppelin tier list. But carrying on, let's keep going. I love how light this one is. Very sweet in its composition and vocally. Oh, oh, oh. Oh. Oh my god. I feel like we're in heaven with this drop. Much slower pacing. Bruford giving us a nice tempo. Oh. Love these differing sections. Maybe this is the apocalypse, perhaps? Or is this the preacher, the teacher? It's one of the two. I really love the, like I said, these acoustics. We still got a nice synth. Bring us to the future a little bit. But again, I love the folkier acoustic leaning of this track. It's a very nice detour in genre after that opener being so just like visceral in its sound. This one feels a little bit more dialed back, but still an epic sense to it. Oh. Some interesting effects here on that, I believe it was guitar. Oh, all coming together here. And that bass, our bassist. Sorry, who's our bassist again? Chris Squire. Our bassist, you know, he makes his presence known on this album. A lot of bassists feel like they play kind of further in the back. But on this album, you know, his presence is certainly felt. It's much louder in the mix than you'd expect, which I'm always a fan of. I'm a big fan of the bass. Getting spacey here. Nice contrast with this, you know, folky throwback. Oh, yes. Give us this like sinking, like it's like splashing into the depth of the music there as we slow down. Very psychedelic. Again, a very I can't help but feel like there is like a fantasy element to this LP, certainly in scope and style, but also in lyrics. You know, valleys and mountains being mentioned throughout the LP. Oceans feels very just like nature-esque, very fantasy infused, which again matches the epicness of some of these. Let's go into the last track here, Siberian Katru. Not sure if I pronounced that right. Oh my goodness. This one feels a bit more bluesy, I would say. A bit more blues rock tone. Oh my god. I love the scratching of that guitar there. Oh. This is a great melody. Just coasting along it. I love the overdubbing of the vocals and the harmonies throughout this LP too. Feels very early Queen-esque, especially when they were a bit more proggy in a sense. Oh, what is this? Maybe the Mellotron? I'm not sure. It's the harpsichord. Whatever that was, Wakeman once again blows me away with the keys. Maybe even managing to beat out Bruford for stealing the show for me personally. Just loving how much he's showing off on those keys throughout this LP. Oh! This one really tugs and pulls you in every direction. With its like drastic shifts in tone. Oh, Bruford, you're sneaking in here. Or like a drum line as he comes in. Again, quite religious on this track. Cult-like, maybe. Oh. Entering the last passage here would seem. This track not even split into movements. Oh my goodness. With only like 20 seconds left, we're belting it out with this guitar. Steve Howe showing off there. And a long fade out. And that does it for Siberian Katru. Am I pronouncing that right? Another great track. 3 tracks. That's all this album is just 3 tracks. But God, are those 3 tracks just beautiful. They are epic. Somehow all super well paced. 18 minutes for that opening track. And I feel like, I mean, it does have 4 solid movements throughout it, which does break it down quite a bit. It makes the pacing feel much smoother as we transition from one movement to the next. But even still, such a grand, kind of epic mammoth of a track that I feel like tackles a plethora of genres all in that 18-minute span. such as, like I mentioned, ambient, prog rock, psychedelic rock as well. More so in the production, especially the second track too, I would say touched upon that. Feeling more kind of reflective as we enter that second track. Theme-wise, I think that opening track was about the passage of time. This third track here, maybe about religion, and the second track, kind of looking within. I'm not too sure necessarily what we're going on about lyrically at times. I feel like Close to the Edge was the most direct about passage of time and seasons and how it affects moods, perhaps, and using seasons to compare, or I guess use as a metaphor for moods. Is that what we're getting at? Either way, very abstract lyrics that I feel like touch upon very kind of fantasy, mythological elements that are just greatly complemented by the, just like I said, fantasy-infused music at play here. Very operatic at tones, reminding me of Queen, specifically the early Queen records that were a little bit more proggy in their tone and direction, and also fantasy and tone at the time when they were doing those first couple LPs. But I feel like, Yes does it to a much greater extent, and also does a much better job with it for Close to the Edge, because this LP is fantastic. And at 38 minutes, pretty much this album is, it is super well paced. It feels very short, goes from one track to the next with ease, yet at the same time, it, does take you on these very long, monumental journeys that are at shortest 9 minutes, which is a long track for any other artist. But for this album, feels surprisingly short. It feels like it ends quite prematurely, one might say, given the long fade out. You could just keep it going and you wouldn't even really mind its length, because again, great pacing and a great sense of direction, tempo, and deviations in the music that really pad out the time beautifully. This is a solid record, and let's talk about the musicians real quick. Steve Howe does a great job throughout this thing on the guitar. He soars. He's electric. He is just like riding on a electrical, ever-changing wave, especially with that sitar, which I think was in the first track, and I really like that. But the bass was thick. The bass was girthy. The bass came in strong. But even then, you got Rick Wakeman, who comes in with those keys on just about every track, but especially on that opening track, flexing on that pipe organ. And then you got Bill Bruford, which, what more is there to say? He is a brilliant drummer that commands attention when he chooses to. He's great on King Crimson's LP Red. He is fantastic here. And really, John Anderson, lead vocals, also does a great job. Like I said, I like the fact that he doesn't feel like he is necessarily trying to show off. He feels very humble in his delivery of his vocals, but still very operatic, still very performative. Altogether, you have a solid lineup of artists here who are just like each showing off just how talented they are, all within their own sections. I think prog rock, always, a good prog rock band always shows off the talent of every member, and this band with Close to the Edge certainly does it. But that does it for today's video. If you like the video, please hit like and subscribe to follow along and listening to more rock albums throughout the month of Rocktober. Next album that we are going to check out will be one that has been requested by somebody in the comments here. They've said it quite a few times. In fact, they left a comment simply saying, Oasis, Oasis, Oasis. So, in that spirit, the next album we're listening to is What's the Story? Morning Glory by Oasis. I'll save my comments for that album, for Oasis, for Britpop in general, for that video, because I have some stuff to say. But if you're interested in that LP, if you're interested in my reaction, go ahead, subscribe, and follow along. As always, my name is Randy Joe. I appreciate you watching, and I'm signing off.